Think we're live. Yes, we are. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Yeah, welcome. Come in and join us. We've got the most magnificent Sue Prentice here to join us, co-author of our book, Empowered Women Empowering the World. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you so much, Sal. It's so great of you to arrange our chat today. I'm really excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you, Sue. You and I, and our heritage is not very different, actually. It was quite amazing. We met 6 months ago, and well, we worked out that my parents, my mum's from Zimbabwe, and you're a born and bred Zimbo.
I sure am.
Absolutely amazing. So your story is phenomenal in the book. It is all about resilience, like resilience 101. When we get into the nitty gritty of the things that you went through, even as a young child, the things that you were exposed to growing up in Africa, it's things that we wouldn't, growing up in Australia, there's things there that you've experienced that we would not know anything about. We really wouldn't. And I really want to delve into that. And then you finally ended up in Australia with your beautiful husband and your gorgeous kids. And you now run $1 million business, online digital marketing business, a co-founder of Beyond Point. Beyond Point Digital is Beyond Point, isn't it?
It's Beyond Point. We're on our way to being the multi-million-dollar agency. We are multi-million-dollar e-com owners. However, we drove and built our own brand and grew it from absolutely a concept to a seven-figure business in just 2 years. So that's the multi-million-dollar signature next to my experience. But I've helped other people grow their businesses, so into those sort of 7-8 figure businesses for sure.
Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's start with the beginning. Your story in Africa, in Zimbabwe. So I've been to Zimbabwe quite a few times, and I just love Africa. I have a real place for Africa. And so when I was reading your chapter and you're talking about it, and I know you cut it short because, God, you could write a whole book on your life. Honestly, you could. But let's start from there. Growing up in Zimbabwe as a young girl.
Well, it was an absolute privilege. And, I never thought I would leave Africa, actually, because as they say, when you've got Africa in your blood, it never leaves, and I now walk around and tell people, hey, if you've never been to Africa and you've got to go, it's just something everyone needs to do because it's a very spiritual experience. So that is kind of how I started off, and I guess why we all connect as we do in this book of authors, because you couldn't find a more spiritual person than Tammy Pike. And Africa's full of that. It's a mystery. It's such a beautiful place. And when I grew up as a child, it was a very different place to where it is now. And it's still got amazing things there. But when I grew up, I was a little child in a war, actually. And so it was kind of 101, as you said, Sal, into resilience, which you know all about, and what I love that you're teaching other kids about that. So at 7 years old, I had my own first automatic rifle. And my dad actually made it our business to be completely self-sufficient, because it wasn't just for fun. It wasn't just for show. It was really meant to save lives. And we had to be equipped to defend ourselves if we ever, at the drop of a hat. And so we just I went to boarding school, and we had sanctions on in the country at that time, and we knew all about what it was like to be hungry, let me tell you. We'd get served up a hard-baked potato for dinner with no sauce or nothing, no veggies, no nothing. That was in boarding school. And so life was tough. We slept in dormitories of 24 and on a hospital bed with our brown blankets, government issue blankets. And, we had to get trained on bomb scare and grenades attacks as we sat in class and all kinds of stuff. So it was learning about life like as a child, like really like the fragility of life, and also just resilience, like just being self-defense, everyone had a part. You had to grow up, you had to be responsible for yourself and for other people. It was not just you weren't just thinking about yourself. And so that's basically how my story starts. And I talk about, you know, growing up in a war, and then what a privilege it was, because it also taught us the true sense of community. And I think what you're seeing now, and what a lot of people are talking about and recognizing with, you know, the whole COVID-19 thing, and how everyone's had to withdraw but come together as a community, and suddenly we're seeing people value small things in life. So that's what we did when we were back growing up in that environment.
Absolutely. See, when your basic needs are taken away from you, like often like a proper meal at nighttime, or a nice warm snuggly blankets, or that somebody could come and bomb you at any time, or that we aren't allowed, you know, with our social distancing, when those basic needs are taken away from you, you reflect and you look and you don't take things for granted, do you?
No.
You really live in gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Gratitude is huge. And as I've traveled around the world, because Australia is the fourth country I've lived in, and I've always, when, you know, Australia, we are truly the lucky country. It's a cliche, but it's really a lucky country. And you think
it's absolutely true.
Yeah, well, I hear like some of the stories, and I just sometimes want to go travel, see how the other world. So I made it my mission to take my kids back to Africa, so that they could actually see how other people live in the world. Like, you know, we've done that just to get perspective. You get perspective when you have to do things like that. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So then you finished high school and you went to, and explain about the apartheid, and you know, when you moved over to, when you went to South Africa for your university, like when you went to study uni, because that's the story.
Yeah, so for those of you listening that don't really know, you know, Zimbabwe has been, you know, run by Black leaders since 1980. So when I was just a little girl, race was not a thing for us. Like, you know, we were friends, and it was just one of those things. And then so that was when the war ended. That was that changeover from the kind of British run colony that it was to Zimbabwe, and it was so great to be able to go through that change. And you know, but there was this we actually studied the English system because the British heritage. So we did the Cambridge school system, O levels and A levels, and then and then basically the good next progression was to go to university in South Africa. That's just what people did. Universities in South Africa were amazing. And so we left school and went to another country to go to university. That's what you did. Everyone did that. That had, you know, kind of good enough qualifications from their, like what we would say HSC results. You would leave the country and go to South Africa. However, when I went, it was a tough time, not only because my parents separated literally the day that I left to catch a lift to South Africa. But it was also a very difficult time between the country, like the leaders of the country, because South Africa was still in apartheid. And I had no idea what that meant, really. I mean, I mean, you would think I would have any idea, but I really didn't know. It was such just a contrast to go from this country of Zimbabwe, where we were all happily living together, to go into South Africa and see this experience. And yeah, and I felt so uneasy there. And but anyway, I could only, the country wouldn't let us actually take any foreign currency from we weren't allowed to take our foreign currency through into South Africa because of politics. So my parents actually couldn't give me any money. So basically I had just enough money to pay for my first materials at my uni course, like you have to get your first year kit basically. And then after that I was like really running dry on cash. So I basically had to get a job. Like I had to, it's that whole thing, fend for yourself. And that's what I was saying earlier to Sal. We had a little chat and we were just saying, when you're in Africa, one thing is there's not this kind of system, this welfare system that you can lean back on. There's just there's no kind of government grant. There's no all these lovely things that people are queuing up, to get payment from the government right now because of our situation and the pandemic. That none of that stuff happens in Africa. If these people that have been forced to go home, they can't go and get a handout from the government because they're at home. So you grow up knowing there's no fallback. And it's just up to you, and you get really resilient. Like you get creative, you get innovative. That I guess you get competitive. You've got to think different. You can't swim in the same sea of sameness, and you've got to be that fast-growing tadpole that turns into the frog to be looked at. So that is what it's like there. Anyway, that's how I sort of give you a bit of background to what gives you that constant drive. Because a lot of people say, how do you just get your drive? Where does your energy come from? I don't know how you get that energy. I think it's that induction into life where, you just see that, well, that's just how it is.
Yeah. And if you don't work, you don't eat. It's just the way it is in Africa. If you don't have an income of some description, then there is no government safety net to make sure you live in a house, make sure you have food, make sure your children go to school, make sure they're clothed. It's not the way in Africa. And I believe that in there has built an enormous amount of resilience in you because you've overcome some huge adversity. So in South Africa, when you were working at the tender age of 18, 19, it was a bit scary, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty scary. So what happened was my lectures were full-time. So I had to get special permission to leave at 4:45 so that I could actually go to my course. To my job, sorry. And I would run. I'd leave the uni at campus and I would run to get to my job at 5 o'clock. It started at 5 o'clock every single day. And I was, that's how I was working on the telesales side of it until such time. And I earned great money, by the way.
I bet you did.
Yeah, you learn very quickly how to condition your voice for sales and just, respond and the emotional soft skills of sales, really. And anyway, so I worked out that, I could earn a lot more money if I was actually doing the selling. Like if I was the one taking those appointments from the telemarketing team and doing the selling. That's a whole story which you'll have to read the book for, but basically we haven't got time today. But essentially what it meant was going into people's houses and as a kind of young girl and walking into these people's houses that were complete strangers, and lots of dangerous things. It's a dangerous place, and I don't know if you might know what goes on, but because of the fact that you have to fend for yourself, life is cheap there. Life is cheap, and people will kill you for your wallet or your car, and so to be going into people's houses in the evening to do sales, you can imagine some of the experiences. Yeah, it was very, very interesting. So I do write about that in the book, and I do talk about that, how we actually got into, some really crazy situations where, but often you were very self-defense. In fact, I actually did karate and self-defense because I needed to know how to behave, and a lot of it is and learning that process about self-defense actually is quite a lot about mindset.
Yeah.
Because you know, like one day I had this guy standing there and he was telling me he was going to rape me, and I had learned through self-defense not to be intimidated by that threat. And so I had to stand there, and he came right up behind me, and I had to just show that I was not scared, because like the fact that I wasn't going to show that intimidation would intimidate him.
Yeah.
And so
your power.
and so this was the sort of thing that you just did every single day. You just practiced this kind of stuff, and you just got on with it, and you were always aware. And I've got a funny story to tell, which isn't in the book, but I remember arriving in Australia after this. Now, I did get carjacked and shot at 4 times. I had a lot of experiences. I had my watch taken off me. I had they broke through the burglar bars and broke into my house, and I used to go to sleep with a bayonet and mace sprays and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, and then but basically, you know, I mean, it was probably because I was running later on. After I'd finished uni, I was running an agency, an advertising agency, and I was the creative manager in there. So unfortunately, those people are always the ones to lock up. And so I was always locking up. So I was being watched. That's why I think I had so many incidents happen to me. You know, they knew where I lived, they knew everything, that I was by myself, blah, blah, blah. So, but yeah, one funny, because of this constant conditioning over some years, because I ended up being in South Africa for 6 years. And then after that, I went, you know, traveled around to Europe, and then came to Australia, and I was sitting in my first job in a car waiting for an appointment in Hyde Park in Sydney. And this guy came along, and he was just making his way to his car, but he was walking along, and he came towards my car. And I was sitting, it was a hot summer's day, and I had my windows down. I quickly wound my windows up and locked my car doors as he came to walk past my car.
Just have it.
Yeah. And he was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And he knocked on my window, and I was like, "Oh no, you see, he was coming to me." And so I wound my window down about an inch, and he said, "Are you okay?"
Australia.
Yeah, it was really funny.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I remember when I was 18, I was in Johannesburg, and I was with my cousin driving through, because I've still got family in South Africa, and it is legal, and I could not believe this at 18 years of age. If you drive in, at the time, if you're in a car and you were a white woman on your own, you could go through a red light if it was safe. You didn't actually have to stop at a robot.
Yeah, because it was dangerous.
It was dangerous because you got carjacked, like shot and taken out so they could take your car.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, so that's why you guys left then, isn't it? Your husband now, you guys left, and you ended up in Australia, and you came here with no money.
No money.
Let's go from there to what you've done from there to now.
Yeah, came here with no money once again. It's kind of, you know, at least I'd done it once before. And yeah, so we arrived in Australia, and we had been having, actually what happened to fill the gap in was left the UK. Just didn't kind of relate to having no sunshine. And then decided to make our way back to Africa, in fact. But we traveled around the world with this world ticket, and we'd been all the way through the United States, and we'd been to Fiji and lived in the village there, which has a great story as well. Trying to get over to an island in Fiji with a fisherman and his 20 horsepower boat, getting caught in a storm and everything. And then we went to New Zealand, and then we came to Australia, but we got a bit excited along the way and didn't budget our daily budget. So when we arrived here, we had to get a job. We had working visas as backpackers. And that's how we came to Australia. And my partner got sick with the Johannesburg flu in Sydney. I couldn't believe it. He was so sick that he couldn't get out of bed. And so it was just up to me. And yeah, so we had 4 days worth of money to survive in a backpackers. And then that's how we started. So I just got walking one day. I wasn't eating because we couldn't afford to eat. he was having the toast. Yeah, basically we went down. I used to just walk everywhere because I couldn't even afford a bus ticket. And I just decided, listen, we're now 2 days. I had no chances because people didn't. I was trying to find a design job. And I had my portfolio on this little disc, which was so advanced because it hadn't come to Australia yet. And I think everyone just thought I was a con artist. And so you know, because I was like, what, you want to plug this into my computer? I've never even seen it. Yeah, but my portfolio's on there. And so anyway, eventually knocked on doors till I got a job, and I got a car and a phone. And it was great. And then that's how we got started in Australia. And that was in the creative industry of services, but I was in sales, actually, I must say. Of course, because when I rocked up knocking on doors to get a job, they were like, oh, you'll be a good salesperson. So I was like, no, but I'm looking for a design job.
You are truly amazing. Like, you really are. You don't just lie down, do you?
No.
You get cracking, and I love that about you. I love your drive and your determination. Just because, you know, when the chips are down, you'll get up there and you'll make it happen. And then to come on to where you are now, how long have you been in Australia?
Yeah, so actually a long time, really. It's 27 years now. We've been in Australia. So our kid's Australian, and we live in the northern beaches. God's country, love it. I love the beach. In case anyone doesn't know that, I mean, I think it's about the most prolific content of my stories. It's the beach, the ocean, and the moon and the stars. Oh dear. Anyway, so yeah, I love the beach, and that's where we live, and it's been great. And I mean, through that process, I've helped, you know, multi-million-dollar businesses grow their brands through many years of just working in the advertising communication industry, you know, and I just wanted to basically get going and do it for myself. And so through the towel end of 2014 was when I decided I really want to go and build a brand for myself. And also I could see the future of digital marketing. I could see digital marketing coming into the fore, and I didn't feel like I was in the right place at the right time to equip myself for what was coming. And so I just chucked it in. Chucked it in and jumped out the safe, cushy job, earning really good money with great holidays, and, you know, went over to the US to work out how I was going to do this. And that's where I met my business partner, Giles, on a plane to Las Vegas.
I know Giles, and he's wonderful. I didn't know you guys met on a plane on your way to Las Vegas. Wow.
Yeah, well, he wasn't even sitting next to me, but I managed to chat because if you know me, I like a conversation.
Yeah. I mean, you can talk underwater as well.
Yeah, you and I would be bad, so. So that's how and then from there we, you know, came back to Australia. Well, it turned out that he lived 20 minutes down the road from me in Sydney, which, by the way, if you don't know Sydney, it can take 2.5 hours to drive across Sydney. So absolute fluke that he was just 20 minutes down the drive. Yeah. And we were both trying to do the same thing, build these different businesses. And then eventually Giles felt he was more interested in the type of business that I was working with. And so we had a lifestyle fitness brand of you know, Bluetooth audio products basically, and we manufactured in China, took ourselves to China, manufactured, created our own molds, sold them in America, and got to page 1 in America in within 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So and page 1 in America means a lot of sales every single day. And yeah, it was a real induction into digital marketing and all the aspects that came over. And that took, you know, us and me a little more frequently than Giles to see the States, to go to make sure we were trying to find a digital marketing agency that could help us in our e-com brand and just take that away. Because when you're running such a fast-moving business with all these different moving parts, and you're manufacturing and you're doing shipping and you've got customer service and all the things, you know, you would love somebody to just take care of that marketing and do it right. But we just couldn't find that person, and that's how I decided that I would just do it myself and get into Facebook and messenger marketing and digital marketing. And then, yeah, the education from there. I've spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, in our business together. We've spent a fortune getting to the point. And then we were in a community with people who just said, you know, why don't you, can you help us? Can you help us? One day we were in a mastermind group, and the guy said, hey, you guys should just run an agency and help all these brands. And so we said, okay, well, put it to the group. Let's see who in the group would be interested to work with us. And so we did, and everyone said, yes, please, yes, please, yes, please. And that's how we got started. Yeah, and as it turned out, you know, like obviously there's been some interesting changes in the environment, not to say the least. 2020 has been a crazy year, but even before then, with the restrictions on and the relationship between manufacturing and China and America, you know, it did create a lot of interesting decisions for us in terms of profitability, because America was our biggest market, and also we had to reconsider, you know, the fact that when we started in the digital space, that no one knew what the rules were.
Yeah.
And so the rules have also been written quite a lot in the last 12 months. Yeah. And all these impacts, you know, like your decision on where you're carrying forward. And we started our digital marketing agency, now it would be over 18 months ago, and we grew that to 6 figures within the first 12 months while we were doing the e-com business. So now we focus just on the digital marketing side and helping other businesses with their next best idea. You know, that's what we do. It's really fun.
And see, that would be a huge market for that right now, with so many businesses forced to go online.
Yeah, it's been very interesting through this, you know, program. Like, we've had some great stories. In fact, we're jumping on a sensational community on Wednesday as guests to talk about how we have helped through COVID some of the businesses, and you know, yeah, it's just some of the things that we've managed to do and help people keep connected to their clients through, you know, their businesses being closed overnight. It's been really rewarding, and just, you know, it's inspiring. A lot of it's to do with mindset. As I said, you know, you know, I said to Giles, we're not just digital marketers or creative thinkers. We actually really are mindset ambassadors, because when people are really faced with a tough time and they at despair, you know, we have seen a lot of people, and I'm an empath, and so it makes you know, it's really hard to disconnect yourself like that, and you feel really empathetic to the situation that you have to help. And so that's where all the mindset and resilience and positive thinking, you know, comes through, because, you know, if you can do that and you can just keep going and you can have a positive mindset, the rest will happen as long as you can keep your motivation up.
Absolutely. You're dead right. You know, this has been the same thread through all of the interviews. Every single one of the women of our co-authors have said that exact same thing. If you can keep a positive mindset, because it's all about mindset, and you can back yourself. Now, so you have backed yourself from the beginning all the way to the end. Do you know, like, you really have. You really have. Your story is amazing. And the impact that you are having on your community and beyond globally is just truly amazing. Our book, It absolutely is. Absolutely it is. Our book, Empowered Women Empowering the World, is so needed right now because there are that many people feeling very disempowered, aren't there?
Yeah. There's a lot of people, I think, I don't know if it's appropriate, and I haven't even thought about this to say this right now, but I wonder whether this is a time when you should think about the people you're listening to.
Oh, absolutely.
Circle
influence.
That five people of influence in your inner circle. Really, I actually encourage anyone listening to think about that, because if you're feeling negative, is somebody else doubting you?
That's right. Absolutely. Surround yourself with like-minded, uplifting people that serve you. It's been a game changer for me as well. Because you are who you hang around with. We know as parents, our children are who they hang around with.
Yeah.
Well, they are. You are. You become the environment that you subject yourself to on a daily basis over time. Even the strongest, most positive people, it's surrounded by negativity constantly, will just fall to it because you are who you hang around with. And so that, I agree with that absolutely, 100%. So that's one of my main key focuses. You be very, very selective and very protective of your circle of influence.
Yeah, it's interesting, Sal. So I mean, how do you do that in a school environment? I mean, because you're obviously with school age kids, and there's a philosophy out there which is how do you impact the year group when that's all you have to choose? I mean, are you impacting schools by talking to the whole year, or children one-on-one? How are you changing and helping that?
You mean you're talking about my MindFit Kids Academy? So the MindFit Kids Academy isn't in schools yet, but that's my plan. That's my big picture. MindFit Kids Academy really put together in COVID. So we're in the early stages.
Oh, wow.
But they're online courses for children between 4 and 12.
Okay, brilliant.
And for my own children on that one, I am very, very aware of who they hang around with after school. And then when they are at school, I get into the conversation of what's going on. I like to know exactly what's going on. An aware parent has more power or influence over your children. And you know where they're going and what they're doing. So I am very aware of who they speak with and the conversations that they have at school. And you cannot, one of the key things I teach my children, this is way off, but we're going there, let's go there.
Yeah.
One of the key things I teach my children is you cannot control what other people say or do to you, but what you can control is how you respond or react and how you take that. And then they come back home and get sapped with all the positivity, and it picks them back up and they go back in there again because they have bad days at school or bad moments at school, or people saying or doing bad things to them. Horrible, like kids are kids. It does happen. So that's how I get through it anyway.
Well, I think you could connect that back to what we're talking about because, ultimately, what you just said is, you kick back and you keep focused on the positive stuff. And that's a mindset thing that you control. Actually, that in actual fact, it's really up to you to try and do whatever it takes. And some people, I'm not saying that there is no such thing as depression and, anxiety and all these things we're going to see a lot of this, unfortunately. Yeah. But I think if we can get the stories out and be inspiring to those people to give them hope, and then, basically make them realize that it's not what someone's going to say to them, it's their own self-belief that they need to work on, and then feel encouraged, from their own thoughts. And then that should help them to lift themselves and motivate themselves to the next thing. And then I think the people that are already on the motivation path, on the highway, they're just going to get more momentum. They're just going to get more momentum. And I think now we're going to see, the most amazing innovation and creativity because we are facing tough times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Sue, thank you so much for coming in today. I really, really appreciate.
Oh, we just cut out, Sal. You're still live, Sal, but you're frozen. Oh dear. Well, thank you. Sal, you're frozen. Hello. I'm not sure whether I should leave or not. We're still live. I think Sal has dropped out, everybody. So thanks for listening if you were here today, and go and grab the book. It's coming out soon. Take care. Bye.